4, 3, 2, 1.
Coming to you live from the rich heartland of Altamont Springs, Florida, it's the Vic Show with Victor Bowers, brought to you by Super Channel WACX TV. Take it away!
Oh, what happened? I'm so welcome, greetings, the Vic Show, where you can have it your way, Lord. Oh, here's my baton. Have it your way, Lord, not have it your way at McDonald's, even though they offer that. Vic Show.
That's Burger King. Burger King.
Oh, Burger King. What is McDonald's?
McDonald's is ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. I'm loving it.
I thought that's Taco Bell. No. Oh, Taco Bell's one for the border. But is that appropriate? Can we say that anymore? I don't want to get into border conflicts. Okay, no more Vic Show. Listen, folks, I woke up at 8:08. I'm just going to throw it out there. I got to be honest. I woke up less than an hour ago. And so I'm still falling into place mentally, but I'm here. Because it's the Vic Show and live TV, and I have my crew, and we're all here, and the Lord has a word. I thought about because this is Holy Week when we're taping this, and I can't miss this show because this is, tomorrow is Good Friday and the celebration and the remembrance of what God did in the earth. To redeem the earth, his plan from the beginning, from the foundations of the world. This was not planned. The crucifixion was not God's plan B to save humanity. No. Everything was in the foundation of the world. It's a deep story. It's a long story. You can learn mostly about it from this thing called a book, Bible. But at a point in time in human history, something happened. And that's what we remember and celebrate, Christians all over the world. All over the world it happens, starting now, really. This time we're doing this. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that and having it your way, which is my title from where I'm going to speak in a moment about just some insight to the prayer that Jesus prayed in the garden before everything shifted and went into full throttle, and where his life was going to be taken. Nonetheless, that's a sad story for a moment, and this is the Vic Show. We like happy stories, but it ends up in a happy way. So, just a little preview, and it's all good. Let's see. How's my hair looking? I had time to do my.
Take the tea bag out. I'm sorry.
I had time to do my hair though. Never running too late for that. Oh, so Terry, what's on your mind back there?
Oh my gosh, I'm just in a place, Victor. I'm just in a place this morning. I was watching Jesus of Nazareth.
Oh
5
my.
o'clock this morning.
Oh wow.
Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah, just in a place. Just in a place of gratefulness.
Yes.
I'm gonna take that.
Yeah.
The tea bag.
No.
You're okay.
Well. Yeah. Just, how do you do that?
Just.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Yeah, I had a bizarre dream last night, and actually I had 2 or 3. Come to think of it, now that my night's coming back to me, and I went to. My usual regimen is I try to be in bed by 11 on the night before we do a Vic Show taping because it's a live show, and so I like to usually get here around 8:15, and then I get up early in the morning at 5. I set my alarm for 5. I usually wake up, roll out of bed after that. But that didn't happen this morning. And I look back, and I had a couple dreams during the night. And one dream I had, and I think it maybe even is speaking into this program, is I was sitting at a table, and sitting at a table of different kinds of people, it wasn't so much a dinner table, it was just like a table in a conference room, and there were all kinds of people sitting there from different, I didn't know any of them. We were there for some reason I don't even know, but it was a friendly table. It was a friendly meeting, maybe like a business meeting or something in that respect. And And someone said, why don't we all go around and say a prayer at this meeting, at this table? And so this one woman, again, this is the dream I had. I didn't know these people, but I can see faces, just individual faces in the dream. And this one woman started, and she kind of prayed a sarcastic prayer, as if kind of, a snarky prayer. Like, sometimes people get an attitude, or, it's kind of like that, which is to be expected sometimes. And then someone other went around, and I didn't know what I was going to pray in a group setting like this where you don't know. And, we're always I feel sometimes we're always put on guard in a public setting. If someone asks you to do something Christian or religious, just the animosity that's in the attitude, in the air sometimes, it can just kind of shut you down a little bit. You don't know what to do because you don't want to offend people. And so, excuse me. But in the dream I had last night, when it came time to my prayer, I started praying the Our Father. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And I prayed it, and excuse me. And then that's kind of where the dream ended. It's just I prayed the Our Father. And I remember that was a prayer that when I went to recovery, in recovery groups like AA or other kind of recovery groups, that's a prayer you'll pray at the end of most meetings. And even though it's the prayer of Jesus, they don't say the prayer of Jesus, they say the Lord's Prayer. But still they all pray it. And maybe I was in a recovery group in the dream. Maybe that was, as it's coming back to me, maybe I was sitting in a recovery group around a table, faces. Maybe, you know what? Maybe that's the table I was sitting at last night, is a table in a recovery group.
Wow.
Because I've spent many hours in recovery groups around tables or sitting around. You sit in a circle sometimes. If you've been in an AA meeting or SA meeting or you sit in a circle, typically. You don't sit like you would in a church in rows. You sit in a group where everybody can see everyone's faces. And maybe that's the dream I was in. And I said the Lord's Prayer because that's what I had done many times. But in the Lord's Prayer is the phrase, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And that is what Jesus was remarking to the disciples, that very phrase, do not be led away into temptation, in the Garden of Gethsemane when they were falling asleep as he was praying. And what is that temptation? Excuse me. I believe that temptation is the ultimate temptation to not trust God with your life. It's the temptation to, I call it unfaith. There's faith, and then there's unfaith. What do I mean by that? I mean, knowing the Lord, like Adam knew the Lord, knowing everything about the Lord, like Adam knew everything about the Lord. But when the test came, instead of putting faith in God, he decided to not put faith in God. He knew to put faith in God. That was what was the automatic response, to trust God. That's all Adam knew in the garden. There was no other trajectory in his relationship with God other than to trust God. There was no reason not to trust God. But he failed. He chose unfaith. He chose to not trust God and to take control of his own life in his own way by eating and disobeying God regarding the tree, the knowledge of good and evil. And that's the same thing that Jesus alludes to in the Garden of Gethsemane when he's with his disciples. Is just do not be led away into temptation, the great temptation, to not trust God with your life when you know how good he is. And when he's revealed himself to you, that's the temptation, is to still want to maintain control of your life. And that's the place we all get to. So without further ado, I think I'm kind of fully awake now. Excuse me, my sinuses. It's Easter, and someone sent me a lovely Easter card, and I just wanted to have it on the set here because it's pretty. It's colorful and Easter eggs, and it looks like some of the Easter eggs have things on them, decorations. Nonetheless, an Easter egg. I guess the egg, I never really got into the Easter egg thing. I guess kids love it. When I was a kid, I did because it came with candy. But anyway, Easter egg, an egg represents new life and all of that. So let's go to the Word now, without further ado, and read. And again, I wanted just to share a few thoughts about the prayer, the episode in Matthew 26 of the Jesus's prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, and at the end, it was a battle in his prayer about what he knew was about to happen, and he was wrestling. He was wrestling with himself. He was wrestling in his humanity with what the life he wanted to live as a human, as a guy, as a man. Jesus was a man, fully human. I know it's redundant to say fully human. Either you're human or you're not. But we still struggle sometimes with the concept of a God-man. We want to make him a superhero, or we want to make him a person that has a trap door in himself, that he goes from one to the other. Either he's fully God and not human, or he's fully human and a great human and a great teacher, but he wasn't divine. And that won't cut it, because in our faith, Jesus was both, fully, completely, fully. The fullness of the Godhead dwelt within him, in him as a human being. And that's hard for us to comprehend. We want to try to pick it apart so we can understand it. We like to ask why. And God oftentimes doesn't tell us why. He just says, follow me, because he's fully trustable. But we have a hard time trusting because we did that once or twice in our life, and we were lied to, or we were deceived, or we were traumatized, or we were abused. And so we don't like to trust because it may hurt again. But God is fully trustable. And so that's the growth process. So in the garden, let's just go ahead and just pour into the scripture, Matthew. Then Jesus went with them to a garden called Gethsemane. And I'll go ahead and just read all the passage, and we'll go back in piece by piece. And he told his disciples, stay here while I go over there and pray. Taking along Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, James and John, Jesus plunged into an agonizing sorrow. Then he said, this sorrow is crushing my life out. Stay here and keep vigil with me, keep watch with me. Going a little further ahead, he fell on his face praying, my Father, not my God, my Father, if there is any way, get me out of this. But please, not what I want, what do you want? God, Father, what do you want? When he came back to his disciples, he found them sound asleep. He said to Peter, can't you stick it out with me a single hour? Stay alert, be in prayer so you don't wander into temptation without even knowing you're in danger. There is a part of you that's eager, ready for anything in God. But there's another part of you that's as lazy as an old dog comfortably sleeping by the fire. He then left them a second time. Again, he prayed, my Father, if there is no other way than this, drinking this cup to the dregs, to the very last drop, I'm ready. Do it your way. Have it your way. Have it your way. When he came back, he again found them sound asleep. But now what was his response? They simply couldn't do it. This time he let them sleep on. What happened? His response was completely different. What happened? Then he let them sleep on, and he went back a third time to pray, going over the same prayer, same ground, going over the same prayer again. He said the same prayer twice. One last time. When he came back the next time, he said, are you going to sleep on all night of it and make a whole night? Are you going to sleep all night and have a wonderful rest? He was kind of cheery. My time is up. The Son of Man is about to be handed over to the hands of sinners. Come on, sleepyheads, get up. Let's get going. My betrayer is here. What happened to Jesus between prayers 2 and 3? What happened? Something happened in Jesus. What happened? So I'm going to start from the end and we'll go back. Because what I found is Jesus faced, as I said, the ultimate temptation that Adam faced and failed. And that when you read through the Old Testament, the Bible, every person that God uses, there comes a pivotal moment in their story, when you read their story, where they make a choice. And some make the wrong choices. The choice to follow God and not follow God perfectly. We can't follow God perfectly, but we follow God in faith. And faith gives a lot of allowance for mistakes, because that's part of being human, is making mistakes. And even in the garden, God had provision for Adam's mistake. When Adam made his mistake, when Adam screwed up and disobeyed, God didn't crash down and just tumult and just... God came to Adam pursuing him, trying to draw Adam back. God wasn't there to smite Adam because Adam had sinned. God, when you read the response and the quest for Adam that God was on in the garden, it's a quest of trying to search Adam's heart for him and trying to draw him back to God. But Adam wouldn't let it happen. Adam wouldn't trust God. So Adam instead blamed his wife. Instead of trusting God and repenting and letting God receive him back into relationship, Adam blamed his wife. God, the woman you gave me, she led me into sin. He deferred. He deflected. He blamed. He became he became the victim. God, it's her fault, not mine. I'm the victim. I didn't even know what she was doing. She had already done it before I could even tell her. Just talk to her. No, I'm out of it. Not me. And God can't do anything with that. When you play victim, there's no way for him to move. So that's the story of humanity. But in every biblical character, there was a place where they were faced with a trial, the temptation to believe or not believe. And the great patriarchs and the great leaders in the Old Testament are those who chose to believe and follow God, even in mistake. Moses is a great example. He made mistakes all along the way. But his fatal mistake that cut him out of going into the promised land was when he didn't trust God with the rock. And that's a whole nother story, which I shouldn't go there, but Moses did trust God. But in the end, he did fail God because he chose to hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock because he was angry. That's another story. I shouldn't go there. King Saul was a guy who at the end lost out because he chose unfaith in God. And instead of going to God, King Saul, instead of going to God with a prayer of why things are happening the way they are, he went to a witch. He went to the witch of Endor to seek guidance from a witch. He didn't choose faith in God. He chose faith in the devil. He went to a witch, and he lost his mind, and he lost the kingdom. The kingdom of Israel, the first king of Israel, failed. So anyway, in the garden, what happened that Jesus could be so what happened in Jesus? So let's go back and just go over it again, because there's a powerful truth for all of us in this. Then Jesus went with them to a garden called Gethsemane. This was a place outside of Jerusalem on the Mount of Olives. There are two mountains in Israel, two mountains in Jerusalem, Mount of Olives and Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah is where the temple sits, and where Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem was built on Mount Moriah. Mount of Olives is on another mountain outside of the city of Jerusalem, and that's where this garden was. So it was outside the city, yet it was close enough to the city to be able to function in the city. So they would go there to this garden, which was a privately owned garden. It wasn't a public garden like we think. It was someone's garden that had been loaned to Jesus. Many think it was the garden of Joseph of Arimathea, who was a high-ranking Pharisee and a wealthy aristocrat. And he had favor with Jesus. He liked Jesus. He believed in Jesus secretly. And so he would loan him his garden. So he went to this garden called Gethsemane and told the disciples, "Stay here while I go over there and pray." And then Jesus, knowing why he was having to pray, he didn't want to be alone. So he took Peter and two of his sons. He took his three favorite disciples. Favorite not because they were better, favorite because they just got along better. You know what I mean? Peter and two of the sons, and he plunged into an agonizing sorrow. Jesus is about to enter, in my view, into a dark place in life he had never experienced. He had never experienced the pain of shame, the pain of guilt, the pain of rejection, the pain of all these things. He had never felt them. The pain of sin, the weight of sin he had never felt. To us, it's normal because that's what we've grown up in. But to him, he had never felt that. There is a weight that comes with sinfulness, a weight. It weighs you down. You look at people in life and choices people have made, and you just see a weight on them. It weighs them down. He had never experienced that, yet it was all going to be poured onto him in some way in the next few moments. And it was breaking him. I think he was having at least a massive panic attack just because of how it's written. He plunged into an agonizing sorrow. When you have a panic attack, it happens, it comes on you quickly. Quickly. I've had panic attacks, others have had panic. It's a horrible experience, and it hits you out of nowhere. But you can feel it brewing for days out. You can just feel the tension. And then it just, at a moment, you snap, and it's a whole episode where your body's trying to plunge itself of all sorts of nonsense. Anyway, this sorrow is crushing my life out. Stay here and keep vigil with me. He did not want to be left alone. Going a little ahead, he fell on his face, praying, "My Father, if there's any way to do this, any way to get me out of this, please do it, please. However, not what I want, but what you want. God, have it your way." So when he came back to his disciples, checking to see, he was going through loneliness. He was going through all those horrible feelings that really we can't put words to. But he wanted to make sure somebody was there. He didn't want to be alone. He found them asleep, which is worse than being alone, is finding the people that are supposed to be with you, not just asleep. That's almost worse than being alone. They fell asleep on me. They fell asleep on me. They fell asleep. I mean, it's better you not even be here. Now I'm doubly tortured. You're here and you're faking you're here, and I come in and you're sleeping. He said, "Peter, can't you stick it out with me?" I think he was angry. I think he was passive aggressive. Can't you? Come on, dude. Just an hour before you were telling me you would be willing to die for me. Twice, Peter. The passages before this in Matthew 26, Peter's like, "No, I will never abandon you." And then Jesus says, "Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times before 3 a.m. And then Peter comes back and says, "No, not me. Jesus, I will die with you." He buckled down, and now he's falling asleep. Can't you stick it out with me a single hour? Mr. Hothead, Mr. Bravo, Mr. Manly Man? You're like an old lazy dog, comfortable by the fire. Okay. Stay alert, be in prayer so you don't wander into temptation, just like Judas had wandered into temptation. Judas slowly slid into unfaith and sold him out as a slave. And now Judas was probably committing suicide at the moment this is going on. Without even knowing you're entering into danger, into unfaith, there is a part of you that's eager, ready for anything. But there's another part of you that's as lazy and comfortable as an old dog sleeping by the fire. Okay. He then left them a second time. Something has happened in Jesus. He's realized, my Father, if there's no other way than drinking this cup to the dregs, I'm ready. He realized Peter and James and John, they're great guys. They have great futures, and they'll do much for the kingdom of God. But they're broken. They're flawed. They're not dependable. And that's okay. None of us are dependable because we're all broken. We all come to the table with baggage. We all do. And God knows it. And God still poured his life out for us. Because there was one human who was dependable. His name is Jesus. And he chose to make the right decision. He didn't choose like Adam did. He made the right decision. And he stayed faithful. He trusted God. He didn't know why. He was asking questions of, why does it have to be this way? When he asked the Father, if this cup can be taken from me, if there's any other way to do it, those are questions of why does it have to be like this, God? If you're God, why can't you do something else? Why does it have to involve my life? And God never answered his question. God was silent. His Father said nothing. But Jesus made his own decision to fully obey, knowing what the outcome would be. He trusted God. And in that moment, and we all have those times in life where you say, I'm going to trust God no matter what the cost. No matter what the cost, because that's the ultimate decision. And it's a power that comes to you. This is not a self-help seminar. This is an exhortation to you, an encouragement. When those times in life come, God is dependable. He is trustable. And when you trust him, what happens? Look what Jesus, let's go to the next one, next page. When he came back, he found them asleep. They couldn't keep their eyes open. Let's go to the next one. Okay, let's go to the next one. Sorry, we got to go quick. Next one. My point is, he approaches his captors with confidence. Jesus is now a man in control. The Son of Man is about to be handed over to the sinners. Get up, let's get going. My betrayer is here. Jesus is a man headed to death, but he's a man who's in control. He's not in control of the circumstances, but in control of his decision to trust God fully. And it gives him a confidence, it gives him a strength, it gives him a power, and he follows through. And that's on offer for you in him. With God, all things are possible.